204.168.29. .29. That was a /30. And I have to turn that one on as well. Good. God, we're 50% of the way done. Define a default route. Now, this is where you have to take a note. Now, we talked last week about OSPF. Remember that dynamic routing protocol that I put on? A lot of times in routers, you're not going to have a routing protocol to participate to your internet service provider. Okay, because unless you're running a very large network that is multi-home to at least 2 internet service providers, you're not going to run a dynamic routing protocol to the internet. So you're going to have to set up a default route. What a default route is nothing more than a pointer that says if you cannot find the path or the way to your network, go that way. Okay? It tells where packets should go. Now, looks like I'm getting a mismatch here on my connection to my gigabit Ethernet port. So I'm just going to make a quick correction. This is not necessary for you guys, but I don't want to see that error. You don't need to do that though. Go. Good. Alright, so to set up a default route I have to be in global configuration mode, and to get from interface configuration mode to global configuration mode, I'm just going to type the word exit. That backs me out one phase. The command to set up a route, any route, whether it's a default route or a standard static route, is IP route. Alright? Typically the next number would be the network that you're going to. Alright? Followed by its network mask. But since I want to set this as a default route, I want to match any IP that's not already known. So I do that by a series of zeros. 2 sets of 4 zeros separated by periods. 0.0.0.0 space 0.0.0.0. All that is saying that if nothing else is matched, go to this IP address. And I put in the IP address. In this case, that IP address is going to be 204.186.29.30. That is a default route. DHCP. To who is in 347? Who's in my 347 class? One. Nobody else? Okay, fine. DHCP. You have to do 2 things for DHCP typically. It depends on what I'm asking for. So, I want to set up DHCP for that network. I want to exclude 1 through 25, and I want to set up the DNS servers that are served up from the DHCP for those 2 addresses. So, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set up the DHCP network. So, the command is IP DHCP pool, and then I give it a name. The name is arbitrary. I'm just going to type in lab 1 pool. I could make it my name, I could make it my pool, I could make it whatever I wanted to. I hit enter. I now go into a configuration mode for the DHCP server. In order to set up the DHCP for that specific network, I give it a network command, just like if I were doing with a routing protocol. Network. 192.168.20. And then the subnet mask, which was a /24. To set up the DNS servers, I could pretty much just cut and paste that right there, letter B. DNS-server, I said pretty much. 192.168.20.16. Space, the next server, 204.186.20.53. And I think I can put quite a number of DNS servers, and it goes in a sequential fashion. Okay? That's it. If I wanted to set up a default router other than my router, I would put in the command default-router. I'm not asking for that here. I don't have to. To do the exclusion, I actually do not have to be in the pool to do the exclusion. So what the exclusion means is basically I don't want the DHCP service to serve out .1 through .25. So I'm going to exit out of the DHCP configuration, and I'm going to type in the command IP DHCP space excluded -address. And I put the beginning address followed by the ending address. I think that's right. Let me check my work before I hit enter. Yep, 1 through 25. Now if I look at the configuration, see my excluded address, there's my pool, my network, my DHCP servers. 70% done. The last 30% is easy. We've already seen it before. So, set up a standard access list on your router to deny any traffic from that network into your network. So, I didn't really was specific, so I didn't say where to set this up from. But what are the two things if we're setting up a standard access list we have to remember? If we're going to deny a network, what should we permit after it? If we're going to deny a specific address or range of addresses or network, what do we have to do after that statement, that initial statement? What? No, that's what we're doing.
Apply to an interface.
Apply to an interface is one, but before we do that, we have to add an extra entry into a standard access list. Otherwise, we're going to block all traffic because there's an implicit deny at the end of an access list. And if we don't do that, no, we have to do a permit IP any. Okay? If we're going to specifically filter one address, a group of addresses, a list of addresses, we still have to permit something at the end of it. Okay? We have to remember that. So, but if that was a statement to say, I only want this network permitted, we would permit that network and then deny everything else. So, command is access list. A standard access list is 1 through 99. I don't care what you pick. I'm going to pick 10. Deny 117.23.54.0. What do I have to do here? Inverted or wildcard mask. I got an email on this the other day. Very good. Stating, why did I do this wrong? I'm seeing zeros, all zeros on my access list. And I looked at his command he put in. He or or she sent me their config file, and they'd put in a net mask, 255.255.255.0. Well, that's going to be wrong, because it has to be inverted. So in this case, it would be 0.0.0.255. And here's where we have to do the permit. Otherwise, it's going to break.
If you're ever unsure of which one you have to do with the inverted or the other one, you just do question mark and it'll tell you, right?
Actually, a standard access list is IP anyway, so it's just access list 10 permit any. What was your question again, sir?
If you're ever unsure if to put the subnet mask or the wildcard, you can just put a question mark and it'll tell you, right?
Yep. There's the access list. Now, I'm going to apply this access list on Fast Ethernet 01 inbound. I wasn't specific in the question. If you do it somewhere else, I'm not going to count off points. As long as it's applied somewhere, you'll get full credit. Okay? Again, baby steps. So I'm going to go into interface F01 and type in the command IP access group 10 inbound. Again, I wasn't specific. If you made it outbound, inbound, either way is fine. You just have to make sure it's done. Okay? You'll get the full 10 points. If you do the access list but forget the access group, you'll lose half your points. If you do the access group but you mess up on the access list, if you try the access list, you'll get some points. You may lose 2, 3 points, right? But you won't lose all 5. Most people lose 5 because they forget that. Now, set up your router to use Telnet on your VTY line. So now we have to go into VTY line, or VTY mode. So, that's how I get into my lines, my virtual terminal lines, VTY 0 and 4, 0 space 4. I'm sorry, line VTY 0 space 4. And you see my prompt changes to config-line. Okay. To enable Telnet, I have to tell it transport input Telnet. Means it's going to accept Telnet as the only transport protocol. If you put in transport input all, that would be fine too, because it would still accept Telnet. Okay? And then I have to tell it to allow logins to happen, which would be login local. I could set a password on the VTY line itself. That would be perfectly fine. Alright? But that would be a shared password by all. By setting up users in a device, I get some form of control.
I just have a question. Do we get to see the Telnet protocol?
What do you mean, do you get to
like,
see it?
Get into it or use it? The protocol, the actual protocol?
Yes, I can do a demonstration of how to use it. I did that last week. I believe I did that last week. But hold off. I'm gonna get to that piece of the class. It's actually really neat. All right, and the last step: lock out your aux port, disable your HTTP engine, and finally disable Cisco Discovery Protocol system-wide. That is 3 commands. First off, let's start with the auxiliary port. So line aux 0. To lock out any port, your console port, your VTY ports, your auxiliary port, you just have to take executive privileges away from that port. So, no exec. If I put in no exec on that port, I cannot open up a terminal session, regardless of protocol. Regardless of protocol. Disable your HTTP engine. From global configuration mode, no IP HTTP server. Disable Cisco Discovery Protocol. No CDP run. No CDP run. And that disables Cisco Discovery Protocol. Let's write this to memory, shall we? Now I'm not going to exit out. I'm going to kill this connection here real quick. I'm going to bring another router over. Power him on. Ethernet switch over here. This guy kind of looks familiar, right? So I'm going to quickly console this guy. I'm going to put the 200 address on him real fast, which was 204.186.29.30. No, 186.29.30. Oh, 204.168. I think my access list is killing everything, so 1 second. I'm just going to kill the access list here. Alright, what is your major malfunction here? I bet you I know what it is. Nope. Yeah. .204.168, 204.186. See how that can get really confusing really fast? It's 186. So I put in fast Ethernet wrong. I put the IP address on fast Ethernet 1 wrong. Much better. There we go. Okay, now I have connectivity.
Why is it 80?
Huh?
Why is it 80%?
It just took a second for the protocol to come up when I was pinging it. Int f0/1. When troubleshooting connectivity problems, one of the first steps to do is disable access list to make sure that it's not a filtering issue. Because as you can see, as soon as I put that filter in, not a good thing. Take the filter out. Oh, 186. Sorry, I'm an idiot. Put it back in. Ping the right address. There we go. So the filter's in. All right, good. Status quo. Sorry about that. So, you know, as I had told you before, we have the service password encryption, right? Everybody got that?
Yeah.
Okay. So, when we, if I were to telnet from R2 to R1, okay, I'm going to get a password prompt. My username was admin. My password was Cisco. Right? I got a user prompt. Now, fortunately, I had no password set for my enable password. So, I have to set an enable password. It's going to make it Cisco. Now, if I look at my enable password, hey, it has a level 7 hash as well. Okay. Let's make it a little bit different this time. Let's not make it Cisco. Let's make it root. Enable pass root. Let's write that to memory. Okay. Now when I tell that back, admin Cisco enable root. Now, as you can see, I'm actually in R1. So I have a shell or console into R1. Okay? Now, okay, great. You got to use username and password. Let's do this. In GNS3, and if anybody can ever gain access, physical access, to a switch, for whatever reason, and set up a span port or a mirror port, you can sniff packets. If you are on a wireless network and you are working with Telnet or you are working with remote access, wireless can be sniffed. So if you are not using any encryption whatsoever, if you're in clear, all right, all somebody has to do is start capturing. In this case, I'm bringing up